Let's be honest, for a lot of us, our period is just a monthly inconvenience, right? Something to manage and then forget about. But what if I told you it's actually one of the most direct and detailed health reports you'll ever get? Okay, let's dive into this because your body is trying to tell you something really, really important.
And, that's not just some catchy phrase. It's a term medical professionals use. They put the menstrual cycle right up there with your blood pressure, your heart rate, your temperature, and your breathing. It's considered that fundamental to understanding your overall health. It's a big deal.
So, every single month, your body sends out a message. It's a status update, basically. It tells you about your stress levels, your metabolism, your inflammation, so much more. The only question is, are you listening? In this explainer, we're going to learn how to decode that message. All right, so let's start with the big idea here. Your monthly cycle is this incredibly sensitive mirror of what's going on inside your body, especially with your hormones. When everything's running smoothly, your cycle is smooth and predictable. But when things are off, your cycle is often the very first place the warning lights start flashing.
The whole system is run by something called the hypothalamus-Pituitary-Ovary axis, or HPG axis for short. Just think of it like a superhighway of communication between your brain and your ovaries. Now, if there's a traffic jam anywhere on that highway, maybe it's caused by stress or your diet or something else, it's going to mess up the entire system.
So how do we actually read this report card? Well, we're going to break it down and focus on 4 key clues your body gives you every month: the regularity of your cycle, whether it shows up at all, the volume of your flow, and the level of pain you experience. And here it is, basically your cheat sheet. This really lays out the core connections. As you can see, if your cycle is irregular or absent, that can point to things like high stress or not getting enough energy. A heavy flow, that might signal something called estrogen dominance. And severe pain, that's often a huge red flag for chronic inflammation. Let's break each of these down. First up, regularity. A consistent, predictable cycle is pretty much the best sign that the communication on that brain-ovary superhighway is crystal clear. It's the gold standard, the baseline for a healthy hormonal system. So what happens when it gets all jumbled up? Well, 2 of the biggest culprits that throw a wrench in the works are stress and PCOS. When you're chronically stressed, your body is flooded with the hormone cortisol, and that directly interferes with the signals needed for a regular cycle. With PCOS, or polycystic ovary syndrome, issues with how the body processes sugar can create a hormonal imbalance that also slams the brakes on regularity. Now, what if your period goes missing entirely? This is clue number 2, and it is a big one. A missed period, or amenorrhea, is not a minor issue. It's your body pulling the emergency brake. It's basically screaming, hey, we are in a crisis here. Whether that's from extreme stress, not eating enough, or overexercising, the body decides that reproduction is a luxury it just can't afford. It's a serious survival signal. All right, on to clue number 3, the volume of your flow. This is basically a direct readout of the balance between your 2 key hormones. You've got estrogen, which builds up the uterine lining, and then you have progesterone, which gets it ready to be shed. The amount of your flow tells a really interesting story about that delicate balance. So if you're dealing with a really heavy flow, it could be a sign of what's called estrogen dominance. That's when you have too much estrogen in relation to progesterone. And get this, one of the common reasons for this is that fat tissue actually produces its own estrogen. So a higher percentage of body fat can lead to higher overall estrogen levels, which means a thicker uterine lining and, you guessed it, a heavier period. And our final clue, number 4, pain. We've all been taught that debilitating cramps are just part of the deal. But they're not. Severe can't-get-out-of-bed pain is often a signal that your body's general inflammation levels are way too high. This chronic inflammation can ramp up the production of pain-causing chemicals, making your period absolutely miserable. So, we've covered the physical signs, but the story doesn't end there, not even close. This hormonal report card is also deeply, deeply connected with your mental and even your neurological health. Let's explore how all of this collides. You can see this link so clearly when you look at eating disorders. In cases of anorexia, the severe lack of energy causes the body to just shut down the reproductive system completely. The period is gone. With bulimia, even if someone's weight is in a normal range, the intense stress on the body elevates cortisol, which leads to irregularity. Both are powerful examples of the body going into survival mode. Now here's something that's absolutely fascinating: the connection between your cycle and ADHD.
See, estrogen isn't just for reproduction. It plays a key role in the brain. It actually helps with the production of dopamine, that all-important chemical for focus, motivation, and mood. And this leads to what some researchers call the double hit. If you have ADHD, your baseline dopamine levels are likely already a bit lower than average. Then, in the week before your period, your estrogen levels naturally take a nosedive. This causes your already low dopamine to drop even further. That's why ADHD symptoms like brain fog, impulsivity, feeling emotionally overwhelmed can feel 100 times worse right at that time of the month.
And this can all create a really nasty, vicious cycle, especially with conditions like depression and anxiety. Poor mental health raises your stress hormone, cortisol. That cortisol then disrupts your hormones and your period. And then guess what? The hormonal shifts from that now disrupted cycle can turn around and make your mood even worse. It's a feedback loop that can be really tough to break. So what does this all mean? It points to something really crucial. For a young woman who's struggling with her mental health, asking a simple question like, "Hey, is your period regular?" can be an incredibly powerful diagnostic tool. It can open up a whole new conversation and help reveal underlying stress or hormonal issues that are part of the bigger picture.
Okay, but what about later in life? Does any of this matter after your periods stop? Absolutely. In fact, understanding your hormonal health is a skill for a lifetime, and it might be even more critical after menopause. Here's the big shift that happens. After your ovaries retire from their job, your fat tissue actually takes over as the main producer of estrogen in your body. This is huge. It means your body composition, specifically how much body fat you have, suddenly has a direct and really powerful influence on your hormone levels for the rest of your life. And just look at this chart. The connection becomes impossible to ignore. A higher BMI means more fat tissue, which means more estrogen production. And while you need some estrogen for things like bone health, this excess, unchecked estrogen after menopause becomes a major risk factor for serious health issues. And the bottom line is, this higher level of estrogen becomes a major driver for certain hormone-sensitive cancers. It significantly increases the risk for the most common type of breast cancer and for endometrial cancer, which is cancer of the uterine lining. It's such a powerful reminder that your body is always communicating with you. It never stops. Before menopause, it speaks pretty loudly through your monthly cycle. After menopause, it speaks a little more quietly through things like your body composition and how that affects your hormones. The signals don't go away, they just change their language.
So, I'll leave you with this thought. For years, maybe even decades, you've been getting a personal, detailed health report delivered to you every single month. The only question is, are you reading it?